Hi, I'm Duke Spear. I'm going to try to tell you exactly what you need to know about Joomla 3.3. Shall we get started? I'm going to try to make sense of Joomla 3.3 for 3.3 very different groups of people all in one video. Let's see how I do. So who are these three groups? Well, the first one are people who have their own Joomla website and maintain it themselves. I'm going to call you a site owner. The second group are people that build and maintain websites. I'm going to call you site builders. And the third group are the people who get into the code and build extensions that the rest of us enjoy. First, this is not a security release. There is no vulnerability being solved by this release, and so there is no urgency to install it. You may take your time. Second, this is a release that has over 55 bug fixes provided by our community of volunteers. All of those things just simply improve your Joomla experience. Things that didn't work before are going to get better. Those are not major changes, and they've all been fairly well tested, so they should not be causing any issues for your site. Third are some new features, and some of those features affect all three groups, and some of those features only affect the developers. So we're going to walk through them. First, JRouter has been improved. Now for a site owner, you don't even know what that term means. But JRouter is the piece of software that pulls all the bits and pieces of a Joomla website together to make a page. This enhancement takes effect automatically just by upgrading your software. You should experience a 10% speed improvement, which will improve your visitor's experience as well as help your search engine rankings. Next, back in Joomla 3.2, we put in a new library to enable microdata to be included in Joomla sites. Back then, you probably didn't even know it was installed. Now, over the next couple of releases, that library is going to start being implemented in Joomla. First, in the Joomla 3.3 release, are improvements in the way articles and contacts are displayed on the front end. Your site should not change. You should not see anything different. But in the rendered HTML, there will be additional snippets of code that have been added to tell Google a little bit more about the articles and their authors to improve your search engine rankings. Again, there is nothing to set up to make this happen. It just happens automatically. You may not see this feature take effect if you have template overrides in your template that take over the way articles and contacts are displayed on the front end. This is a more detailed topic than this video can cover, but simply know that if you are using Joomla core articles, they should be improved and you should not see any difference in your website. Next up, Joomla 3.3 puts back in place some of the security enhancements that started with Joomla 3.2 and had to be reversed out on sites that did not meet a minimum PHP requirement. PHP 5.3.10 is the new minimum requirement to apply Joomla 3.3. Okay, one final aspect of this release. We are continuing Joomla's migration away from using MooTools and towards using jQuery exclusively. Over 25 segments of core code have been rewritten to use jQuery instead of MooTools. The advantage is reducing the risk of JavaScript framework conflicts for site builders, and for site owners, it improves the efficiency of your site by eliminating one or two files from being downloaded to a user's browser for sites that don't otherwise use the MooTools library. This can improve your performance. So there's no confusion. We are not eliminating the MooTools library from the Joomla 3 series. If an extension requests it, MooTools will load as it always has since the beginning of Joomla 3. What we are doing is trying not to load MooTools unnecessarily when we already have jQuery being loaded and a jQuery function can accomplish the same goal. Also, there are a handful of rarely used features in core that are still calling the MooTools library, so it's not 100% gone. As fewer core code segments are asking for the MooTools library to be loaded, it becomes more important that third-party developers and site builders not just assume that MooTools will be loaded, as it has in the past. Instead, they must manage their own dependencies. This has been a requirement for properly coded extensions for years. Can this change break your site? Well, for the vast majority of sites out there, it won't have any effect. But there is a risk for a few sites, so it is important that you follow the recommendations we give with every upgrade. And that is to make sure that you have a good backup and are ready to restore from it if you need to. And even better is to make a copy of your site to an offline server and test an upgrade there before you apply it to your production site. If, during your testing, you get an undefined class error, or you find that certain animations and things on your site just stop working, or Google fonts just don't load at all, it's pretty likely that JavaScript has crashed and that this could be easily related to a MooTools issue. Here are the areas that the project considers to be a risk. These are the 3 most likely ways that you can have a problem due to MooTools not being loaded for a site that needs it. First, remember that in Joomla 1.5 days, MooTools was so popular and so heavily used inside Joomla that developers could get away with assuming that it would always be loaded whether they asked for it or not. But times have changed, and that assumption has not been wise for a number of years. If your site was migrated from Joomla 1.5, and the person doing the migration simply adjusted and reinstalled an old MooTools-based extension, or copied what was in a custom HTML module into your new site without making sure an instruction was added to load MooTools, then it's likely that MooTools would not be loaded and you could experience errors. Second, your site may have some code for fancy animation features based on code that was copied from third-party websites that specialized in these features. When the code is copied and pasted into a custom HTML module, and if MooTools is already being loaded for your site, it would just work and no one would know that there would be an issue. If you didn't go through the extra step of adding a loading instruction to that code, then with the Joomla 3.3 update, it could be that MooTools is no longer being loaded, and so that code snippet would no longer work and start throwing an error. Third, either a commercial or a free template that you are using may have template overrides to further customize the look and feel of your site. Creating those template overrides, a view file could have had MooTools feature calls that predate the 3.3 update. So there's 2 ways to solve that. Either the template provider will rewrite those template overrides to use jQuery the same way that Core does, or add a 1-line instruction to load the MooTools library so that these features work as they did before. If you have any questions about this, and especially about how to put in that 1 line of code, certainly don't hesitate to search the forums and check the documentation for this particular feature. Well, that about wraps it up for this release of Joomla 3.3. A huge thank you to Chad Windnagel for coordinating the Google Summer of Code program, and for all those participants for the new features they have brought to Joomla, and also for the many contributors who have made this particular release possible. And there's a way that you can help. Simply report your success on the forums. If you had a success, great. Let us know about it and say thank you to the developers that made this possible. And if you had an issue, please let us know so that we can work together to fix it. Thanks for watching.